Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Time Added On. My name is Alfredo Fumacic.
And I'm Cristiano Oliveira.
Every week, 5 topics, 2 minutes each. We offer our opinion. First up today, Cristiano, Benfica out of the Portuguese Cup. Lost to Sporting in the second leg, and it's now only 3 appearances this century for for Benfica and the Portuguese Cup, and wins.
Yeah, 5 wins in 32 years is not something to brag home about. Obviously, you want Benfica to do much better than competition. As I've stated on the Benfica podcast before, going off on a little rant there, which is I want Benfica to start taking every competition they play in as serious as possible, and this is obviously one of those competitions.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I know that Benfica holds the current record, if you will, with 26 Portuguese Cups in their tally, right, and their historial. And the other 2 clubs are behind it, but nonetheless, 3 Portuguese Cups in this century, and I know we just started the century. We were 19 years into the century. It's not enough, as Cristiano mentioned. And Cristiano, how much do you think that perhaps the competition is disregarded because there's a bigger priority this year?
Look, the priority might be the Reconquista, the Liga NOS, the Campeonato, which is obviously the primary objective. That's the one title you want to win every season. I get that, and I respect that. But at the end of the day, you have to take this competition serious. You have the 2 close rivals of yours, you know, the crosstown rival, Sporting, and you have your giant rival in Futebol do Porto that are breathing down your throat. At the end of the day, one of these 2 teams is going to win another Taça de Portugal, and it's going to be another chip on their shoulder while Benfica sits home and watches their hated rivals lift another trophy.
Yeah, and we all know the history behind the Portuguese Cup, right? So it's the queen, the prova rainha of Portuguese football. And I think that every time Benfica is at the Jamor and we get to watch the players walk up those steps and collect the cup is a very memorable moment for all Benfica fans. So the fact that Benfica is not in the Portuguese final, doesn't have a chance to win it again, it's disappointing for Benfica fans, myself and Cristiano included.
Yeah, it's a tradition like no other in Portuguese football, and you want our team to be at as many finals as possible and win as many cups as possible. And this is a very storied trophy in Portuguese football, and just hopefully next year. But as far as we talking about it right now, another year down the drain. All right, Alfredo, moving on to the next topic. Gabriel, Benfica's Brazilian Portuguese midfielder, got injured, picked up an injury against Sporting in that semifinal for the Taça de Portugal that we're just talking about. Obviously, had to be subbed off on the 18th minute. Tragic loss here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Gabriel, who was a guy that came in with a lot of potential and a lot of pedigree because of what we had done in Spain. He was a starter under Rui Vitória. Then when things started going awry, he was one of the victims that Rui Vitória cut. And now with Laje's emergence, he came in 34 games, 2,229 minutes. 209 minutes for Gabriel, a very important piece, a very important cog in this Lage team.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate to see him go down with an injury. You saw with each passing minute, you saw he was getting a lot more comfortable. He was becoming a major cog in that Benfica midfield. The guy was one of the key players in transitioning from defense into offense. He had a beautiful left foot, could put the ball on a dime. And it's very unfortunate to see a guy who's finally hitting his stride, get injured. And this is a guy that had been mentioned, rumors on and off, depends on who you believe, that he could possibly be looked at, by Fernando Santos to get a call-up because of his Portuguese background, his grandparents being Portuguese, so he holds a Portuguese passport. And it's very unfortunate to see a young player pick up an injury and a guy that has so much to prove with so many expectations at Benfica go down. And it's going to be a key loss. The guy is obviously not going to play for the remainder of the season. Fortunately for him, no surgery is needed as of right now. The medical staff thinks that rest will be sufficient to get him back to 100% and be ready to go in preseason when Benfica gets things off, kicks things off in July. So hopefully he'll come back and hopefully we'll have no setbacks. But again, nonetheless, very, very disheartening to see him go down, and it's going to mean more opportunity for other players in the Benfica, more of responsibility on other players' shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely. Next topic, Chiquinho. So Chiquinho started the season with Benfica. Benfica sent him out to Moreirense. Now, There's a rule that the Portuguese league has, is the fact that Benfica could only have one loaned out player. So when Chiquinho went to Moreirense, and the fact that Heriberto was already there, Benfica had
loaned out player per team.
Per team, correct. So the fact that Heriberto was already there, Benfica had to outright sell Chiquinho to Moreirense.
Yeah, and look, I understand you have to go through rules and regulations, and I'm okay with that. Where I have a problem with it is, obviously, as I mentioned on the Benfica podcast, you made a mistake with the stupid buyback option with Luka Jovic, Brian Cristante, and now Chiquinho. And obviously now the latest rumor, guys, if you're not aware of what's going on, there's a Russian team apparently that's offered whatever it is, million euros for his pass. And now Benfica has to fork up an additional 4.5 mil if they want to match that offer, or else they will lose the option on bringing Chiquinho back. And he's had a really good season so far this year in his first season over there. And I think Bruno Lage is a fan, and he's proved himself to be Benfica caliber, a guy that can help that Benfica midfielder. I know a lot of people question his acquisition at the beginning of the season, but nonetheless, the guy has been spectacular in his first season, and he's proved to everyone that he belongs on a team like Benfica, and he's warranted an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cristiano mentioned Krasnodar came in with 9 million. Benfica owns 50% of Chiquinho's rights. So the negotiations is now that Benfica might not have to pay the 4.5 million, which is the 50% of the 9 million, of course, but Benfica is probably looking to add some players to the deal. So there was a buyback with Alpha Smith. Heriberto was there. So there's a couple other players that Benfica has loaned out or as outright sold to Moreirense. So we'll see what happens. But as you mentioned, Lage already mentioned some interest in Chiquinho.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Moving on to the next topic. Obviously, yesterday, a lot of rumors surfaced in Portuguese media about Zivkovic and Cervi's potential departure from Estádio da Luz in the summer. Alfredo, how do you look at those two departures if it is indeed that these rumors are true?
Look, Zivkovic, for one, was never a favorite of Rui Vitória, right? So we felt with Rui Vitória leaving and with Lage coming in, and the fact that Lage has a little bit more knowledge or gives more opportunities, we still haven't seen Zivkovic make the impact that we expected him to be because of his talent, right? Cervi is another guy that got quite a good share of minutes under Rui Vitória, but Bruno Lage seems to have just dropped down a pecking order.
Yeah, it seems that they're not, whether it's practicing with the same intensity or don't have the right attitude, we don't know. Those are things that we're not privy to, but it seems to me that Bruno Lage has kind of discarded them. They're not part of, the main 18 that Bruno Lage counts on week in, week out. They'll probably get a start this weekend to surprise everyone. This week, I should say, against Frankfurt in the Europa League quarterfinals. And that's yet to be determined. But look, I've always been a fan of Zivkovic. I've always thought Zivkovic could play. I thought he had a spectacular second half of last season once Krovinovic picked up the injury and he was forced into the middle. And I think right now that's where he might be best suited, is to play in the middle rather than any outside on the wings. But there is something about Zivkovic, and I must admit that looks like, something is off. He's not the same player, whether it's joy, whether it's the intensity, whether it's something in his personal life that's bothering him, but he doesn't seem like quite the same player that we saw last season down the stretch for Benfica.
Yeah, look, and he's a player that nobody could question his talent. Very talented player, plays well for the national team when he's called up. And the one thing that we thought was like, okay, well, maybe Rui Vitória has something against him, and now Lage is going to get the opportunity. Now we see that he has also been put aside by Lage. And when we see players like Tarabt, which Lage has mentioned that has worked hard enough to deserve a chance, and you see Zivkovic not getting a chance, now you got to wonder, how does this guy practice? Does he practice with the same intensity, or there's a lack of it?
Absolutely. I mean, it leaves a ton of questions to be answered. And I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see when the transfer window opens up in July and see exactly if these rumors are true or not.
And next topic, international break woes. So Benfica hasn't been the same ever since that international break. And it was an international break that perhaps came at the right time, as Seferovic, who had been an important part of this team, had just gone down. We felt that Lage is going to have more time with the team. Seferovic was going to have more time to recuperate, but Benfica doesn't seem to have been playing the same level.
We question this every time an international break comes up, whether it's it serves the team well or whether it's a disservice. And in this case, we looked at some of the injuries to some of the important players on the Benfica roster, and we said, look, we understand the team's playing well, but at the same time, I think it's good to give some of these guys a breather and recuperate some guys. But unfortunately, Benfica has not been able to pick up their play to the same level that they were playing at prior to heading into that international break. Sad to see, but the important thing is that Benfica is still finding a way to get the 3 points and chugging along. And the important thing is to get as many victories as possible. Obviously, not drop any points down the stretch and pick up 37.
Yeah, and we also got the situation with João Felix, right? João Felix was having a very good year up to the international break. So good of a year that earned him a call-up. He does get injured in training. He had to he skipped out on a game. I don't recall whether he got sent home or not.
For the last game.
But the truth of the matter is that João Felix hasn't been the same, and we kind of pinpointed to that moment.
I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the international break or not. Look, he did not play. He did practice with the Portuguese national team, and I'm pretty sure it's a great experience for him, and it's only going to help him down the line. I think João Felix has more to do with the amount of minutes at this high competitive level in a youngster's legs. And I think, look, as I stated on the Benfica podcast, I'll say it again, he might benefit from a game on the bench. And unfortunately, though, for him and Bruno Lage, if he's thinking about giving him a few minutes right now, every game matters. You need all your guys healthy and ready to go. Jonas is not available for this game on Thursday against Frankfurt. So it looks like he might be forced to play once again, but he might benefit from a couple minutes on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all we got for you this week. Don't forget to check out our friends over and us at BenficaIndependente.com. Also, follow us on Twitter at TimeAO19. You can interact with us there. My name is Alfredo Famasis.
And I'm Cristiano Oliveira.
And we'll see you next week.
Peace.